We're joined in the studio for the next 15 minutes or so by Rebecca Mills-Sojka. She is a member of the Twin Falls City Council. And, of course, you're listening to News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley with you on Top Story. First of all, Rebecca, I got to say this. For somebody who ended up coming out on the short end on Election Day, you're in a very good mood this morning.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, it's just the way that elections go sometimes, and
One election,
I'm
I
okay
guess,
with
is
it.
not the end of the story, is it?
No, and especially an election that was so close. I mean, I lost by about 90 votes, and the voter turnout was pretty bad, even for a city election. It was about 16%. And so, but that's okay. The citizens spoke, and I was happy to serve for the last 5 years, and I will go on and keep serving, just not on the city council.
We've got to point out, I mean, here you are, all of 30 years old, and we've talked, I think that folks often don't know what goes on off air, but we've talked off air about someday that you may be running for a state legislative seat or something may come along. And that's why I bring that up. It's maybe not the end of the story. And I would imagine if you've had an interest in politics, you grew up working at the booth at the state fair, or the county fair, rather. You grew up doing those things. You're not going to just walk away from this, I would imagine.
No, not at all. And in fact, it's not the end of my current involvement in politics. I'm a precinct committee person for the Republican Central Committee, so I'll stay involved in that. And I volunteer in local politics and for other candidates in other races. So I'm definitely going to be still involved in the community, just doing more of the volunteer things that I've done, even while on the city council. I'm on the Optimist Club board of directors, and so I'll continue that.
You're going to be busy with Lionel over here. He's
Exactly. He keeps me busy and fills my time. I have very little extra time. So
what has he got there today?
he really likes spoons, so he's got a spoon and a set of keys, to keep him busy.
The third generation of the political Mills clan
That's
sitting in
right.
here this morning with Rebecca. Well, talking a little bit about some of the things you got just down the stretch, a month and a half. Um, Interesting enough, we always talk about people when they're running for office. What are your goals?
Mhm.
We never get to talk to people too often and say, in the waning weeks that you're in office, what are your goals? Because I'm sure you feel there's still something you'd like to accomplish before you finish the term.
Sure, and you never know if it's really possible because you do have just a few weeks left. I think we have 3 meetings in December and one more meeting in November. But the council was having a discussion on Monday night about how they elect their mayor, and that was one of my goals for my future term had I been reelected. And so I think that's a good discussion to keep at the forefront because a lot of people have actually asked me, why don't we get to elect our mayor? And people want to elect their mayor. And right now, the system that we have is the council chooses amongst themselves who the mayor is. But I believe that the people are educated and they're smart enough to know who they want to represent them as their mayor. And it's a quick change, a very easy change. It's provided for in the state code. You can either the council can elect their mayor or the citizens can directly elect their mayor. And so I'm a proponent for directly electing the mayor. And so that conversation has come up. And it's the last, of course, we opened these closed committee meetings. And it's the last kind of secretive / closed process that we have because in the 2 times that we've elected mayor when I've been on the council, there was no discussion. We just come the first meeting of the year and someone makes a motion, no discussion, and everyone votes. And it's been unanimous. And so I think it would be much better to have a discussion and do that in the public because obviously someone made the decision somewhere.
Well, the interesting thing, and I guess I haven't seen it done in a lot of years. One of my very first jobs in radio, I worked in a city comparable to here, and it was called Plan C form of government, where again the mayor was just a member of the council,
Mhm.
but he was elected separately, even though he essentially chaired meetings, but he had
Mhm.
no more power than the other 4 members of his council, so he was just one of 5 in that role. And nearby, you had a really big city, about 25 miles away, where they had a mayor who'd served 4 terms, and he was a very strong mayor in the way the city was created. And then he went to federal prison. So all of these people said we don't want a strong mayor because we don't want that to happen, as if that's happens in every city where you have a strong
As
mayor.
if that's common.
But as cities get bigger, I think sometimes there is that greater call, and if this city's just exploding in population, that there's that call that perhaps we need to make that change. Do you think we'll be hearing more of that?
I'm not sure. The other I don't know if there's any more support from the other council members or the new council members, but I think we'll see shortly. I think that what's great is that our form of government would stay exactly the same. So
You'd
it
keep a
would
city
be
manager.
exactly it would be exactly like that small town you're describing because we would still have a council manager form of government, and it wouldn't be a strong mayor. It would just the citizens would have a say in who their mayor was.
Got to point out to people listening today that when this subject of refugee resettlement first came up in Twin Falls, out of all the members of the council, Rebecca was the one that said, "Come and make your voices be heard at meetings." And we didn't hear that from anyone else at the time. Now it seems one terrible event has reversed things so much for people. It does appear that you wanted to give people a say and respect their difference of opinion in
Absolutely.
that situation, and I guess now we're going to hear it, aren't we?
Yes, the event in Paris has dramatically changed the landscape, and you now have the governor speaking up and saying, hey, we need to reevaluate and just ensure that our process is a good one and our vetting process is strong enough to keep something like this from happening. And people have pointed out that um, the terrorists that have committed this act were European nationals, but what happened was they went um, down to Syria to be trained, and then they came back up with the rest of the refugees. At least that's what I've been hearing reported. And so, what I would ask is, what kind of policies did France have? I have heard that France, yeah, France was not aware of these individuals, but the U.S. was. And so I know that the U.S. is far and above, out front on the terrorist issue. But it is certainly never a bad thing to reevaluate your process. And that's kind of been a theme that I've had on the city council. I mean, even in a year where I did have a baby and I did take maternity leave, I updated several different codes, several different processes. Our public notification system is stronger now. We have bigger signs when it's on the properties on an arterial road or a highway. They're larger, more noticeable signs. So we've updated a lot of our processes and made them stronger and better for public input. So I think that's always a good thing, and that is what I've always said is come and be heard, whether we are the body overseeing the refugee program or not. I mean, obviously we're
No,
not,
nobody, and
but you
that's the
always
thing.
have a voice.
Nobody really in local politics had a say.
Hmm.
And I think it was fascinating when I read the governor's release the other day, and he made a comment where he said something along the lines of, "The people in my state, have
Hmm.
some serious concerns." So he's recognizing that
Exactly.
that very vocal part of the public,
Hmm.
and he's pointing out there's nothing we've been able to do about it
Hmm.
because of that.
Hmm.
And so I suppose now, I mean, when I saw that Congressman Simpson had joined in with Congressman Labrador, there's some unity there you don't always see.
Hmm.
This has been the most unifying thing I've seen among Idaho politicians since I've
Yeah.
been here.
Well, and I think the difference is before it was just speculative. It was just, oh, there might be terrorists,
Mhm.
coming in in the refugee pool, and once an event actually happens, you have to say this could happen here. And so I think it's an important discussion to have. Even though I still feel strongly that there are so many people fleeing that violence. They're victims of that violence in Syria, and so how do we not just kind of throw them out with the rest of them? I mean, I don't think we can make a blanket statement saying we don't want anyone from Syria, because there are persecuted Christians in Syria, and there are people that need out of there and that need help. And so we've just got to find a way to address concerns and make sure that we have a strong enough vetting process.
And I'd like to add to this too, because you know, prior to campaigns, I wasn't doing any endorsements, but uh, Rebecca takes her faith seriously in the sense that I went down to one of the demonstrations outside of Planned Parenthood on a Saturday morning a few months back and happened to run into you there. and then you were at the second one as well. So you've been active in some of these things, living that personal faith,
Mhm.
and I think that a lot of people out there who are voting for candidates probably weren't even aware of that. So we've
Yeah.
got a couple of minutes left. Closing down. I mean, is there anything thoughts you had? I mean, as far as like thanking the public or things that you still think we need to get done, or just any last words that you had?
Oh, absolutely. And I want to thank you for that opportunity. I've loved coming on to the radio to talk directly to citizens. And it has been one of the greatest opportunities that I've had to connect with people over the last 5 years. And so I do want to thank everyone who voted. And I want to thank everyone who contributed to my campaign. I mean, we ran a good race and we did our best and we really got the word out there. And, the results weren't what we wanted them to be. But I have faith in the system. I have faith in, if these are the people that the citizens chose, and so they will be leading this city. My thoughts are, and especially my projects, I guess, in the last few weeks, is really keeping an eye on City Hall. We got an update of the current City Hall, and it's about $1 million over budget from what was evaluated and chosen in the original committee. And the city hall itself, they're needing about 8,000 extra square feet from what they had planned. Since we didn't do our space assessment before we made our budget and made our plans, we did it afterward, and so that kind of has presented a challenge to the city. And so we just are going to have to be, as citizens, be watching that and be involved. And I would encourage people to be involved like I am. I'm truly just at heart a political activist. When I believe in something, I step up and I go down there and I make my voice heard. And that's what I believe, and that's what I want everyone to do. So I will continue doing that. You'll probably still see me down at City Council every once in a while. And I do just want to thank the citizens for their great support.
Now, when she said political activist, Lionel went, "Oh."
Exactly. He got excited. He's been to these rallies too. He's been inspired.
He gets to meet a lot of people there, doesn't he?
He does, and he loves people. I mean, he loves coming to the radio.
Smiling about that too. See,
Yes.
he's well aware that he's the subject of the conversation at the moment.
Absolutely.
Well, again, we'd like to thank you for coming by. I'm sure we will hear your name again sometime soon. And best of luck to you too, as well.
Thank you very much.
Sometimes I've been
that.
told that even post-political careers, you can find a lot of cool things to do with your life.
Oh, I think I'm gonna find something very good, something more positive and a little less stressful. I think it's gonna be great.
She says this is Lionel's grabbing the microphone. A little less stressful.
Yeah.
20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Want to thank Rebecca Mills-Sojka for dropping by from the Twin Falls City Council. It's 38. Have a guest coming up shortly. His name is John Brady. He's joining us all the way from Delaware on his way to a conference in Nevada. He'll spend a few minutes with us. He's got some political background, an acquaintance of the Vice President of the United States as well, and maybe some thoughts on just some overall general political happenings in the country.